Welcome back, everybody, to me complaining, whining, and trying to excuse myself for not doing enough. I'm obviously talking about our weekly navel-gazing, which is late one day, and we'll get into that in a second as my first excuse. So let's get this started. Cheers. So yeah, I recorded this yesterday. Actually, I recorded it 3 times and it didn't work because I had issues with the audio. Now, I hope those are resolved now. If not, I don't know. I'll have to figure out what's going on there. It's highly frustrating, believe me. But beyond that, let's look at what I read last week. Let's look at what I did last week. Let's look at what I'm reading this week. Let's look at what I plan to do this week and, ramble about these kind of things. So, reading last week. Reading was really good last week. I read 5 books. I read The Star King, I read The Killing Machine, I read The Palace of Love, and I read The Face by Jack Vance, and I read Swords Against Death by Fritz Lieber. That's 5 books, but before you get too excited, they're rather short books. They're like usually around the 200-page area, so that doesn't mean I didn't read a lot, but it was not as much as it may sound, but was a lot of fun. I mean, I've read Swords Against Death I don't know how many times, and it's always fun, and I was looking forward to reading those Demon Princess novels by Jack Vance for a long time, and I finally started, and I'm now on the last one, which is The Book of Dreams, which I'll probably finish today, and we'll see how things go there. So that's my plan. That's my sort of reading. And to continue that, I'm finishing The Book of Dreams, and then I'll have to do a quick reread of Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency and The Long Dark Tea Time of the Soul by Douglas Adams. I haven't read those in years. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Light-hearted, absurdist fun for a while. It can't hurt, right? That's what I'm thinking. And then, when I'm done with that, I'm finally going to start reading The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, by Stephen R. Donaldson. And I've tried the first one, Lord Fellsbane, before, and it did not go well. I was not prepared for what I was getting into, which is something that the Critical Dragon AP just talked about in a video on Reading Against the Grain. It's certainly a model case for that, is what happened when I tried to read Thomas Covenant back in the day. Now, I know better, and I'm really looking forward to it. We're doing a bit of a read-along, buddy read kind of thing on the Unabridged Burners Discord server, and we thought about that for a long time, and then last Monday we said yeah, fuck it, we're doing this, and as soon as I'm done with my current quick reads, I am going to jump into Thomas Covenant, and I'm really excited because I do believe there is potential content in there, which, I do need, and I'm definitely hoping that I have interesting things to say about what Stephen R. Donaldson is doing there. Content. Well, I did put up 2 videos last week. One of them was the Build Your Own Warband tag, where Angela of Do Unicorns Read tagged me, and then it took me almost 2 weeks to actually respond, because I'm slow with these kind of things and overthink, and then stuff happens. So, but yeah, I did it, and I'm happy with the result. I guess those of you who have watched it kind of liked it, so that's cool. And then I did one other video on politics in fantasy and why I think they're necessary. And yeah, it was another me reacting to something or adding to something that has already been talked about with AP and AP Canavan and other people. And yeah, I felt that I had something to add, and from the few comments I got, I seem to have, actually helped, enlarge the dialogue, I guess, and that's always what I'm aiming at, and I'm really happy with that. it's one of those videos that I'm happy with, even though the numbers aren't, spectacular or anything like that. But, numbers is a different thing. And we'll have to talk about numbers at some point. But yeah, that's what I did last week, and I'm happy with it. So what am I going to do this week? Well, I want to talk about the Demon Princess once I'm done with all 5. I'll just need to figure out how to do that, because, I don't do those straight up book reviews anymore because, I've never done them. And I don't think you need them. I think it's more important to talk about what books actually do and how they do those things. And the Demon Princess and Jack Vance are certainly in desperate need for more propaganda, so I'm going to do that. Yeah, they're fun. They do have their problems, and I will not shy away from those, but they are very much fun to read, and I'm enjoying them a great deal. So that's definitely a video that I will definitely make this week. Then there is one that I have already recorded. That is the second part of John and me talking about Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. We recorded like the collab on Saturday about, Swords Against Death. And as soon as I figured out how to actually put the intro thing before it without ruining the resolution of the actual video, there's some weird glitch and I have not figured out what's going on there. As soon as I figure that one out, it'll be up. It is, as I said, already recorded, so that's another definite video for this week. And I'm excited about that one. Now, what else? Well, I still want to make that large video, the one about like how discourse on books has changed over time and social media and death of the author, and it's a bit of a mess, and we'll see how that works. But I'm certainly still planning to do that. Beyond that, I have no idea. So I guess we'll find out. That's sort of like where I am right now with plans for videos until like next week. So, numbers, plans for videos, those kind of things, the rambly part of this video. So here's the thing. I do have problems with starting stuff, which is why these types of videos that I make work wonderfully, because I just like switch on a camera and then I rant at the camera. But as soon as I start actually planning and thinking about what I'm doing, there's this like kind of barrier going up in my brain, and I just can't get myself to starting. And I have no idea why that is the case. And it's the same when I have to write texts or whatever. It's the same thing. It wasn't like that, and it has become like harder and harder over the last couple of years, and I have no idea why that is the case. And that is certainly something that I think is plaguing that larger video that I spoke about so much. Is like, I made plans for that. I have a rough structure and shit. Now I actually need to go and take that idea out of my brain and put it into like actual video. And that's hard. Because as soon as I put it out there, it will no longer be perfect. Like, right in my brain, it's perfect. And as soon as I see it actually out there, I listen to my voice, which I hate doing anyway, or I read my words that I have written down. At that point, it's no longer beautiful. It's no longer wonderful. It's no longer perfect in my brain. And I have to come to terms with that. And I don't know. It's hard, is what it is. So I have to, kick myself in the ass and just like switch on the camera and rant, and then maybe re-record it if I realize that I'm unhappy with the results. And that's the only way to do it, I think. We will see if I can actually get my shit together and do that. Because at the other end, I do have to do some writing. I applied for like a job to solve my financial problems, which are only getting worse and worse and worse. But I do have to write an example text. It's simple, but it takes me forever to actually get started. And I have, once again, no idea why that is the case. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? Is like them telling me that they don't want me to work for them. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Nothing gained, but nothing lost, because, But it as I said, it's very hard in a way. And the other part, of course, is with those videos, I put them out and then there's response or there's no response. And I think that's where the number things come in, right? And it's important to understand that, I think, that while we're all saying, no, we don't do this for money or for numbers or whatever, it's because we want to do it. It's our heart. We want to talk about books and stuff. Yes, that is true. But the way YouTube is built, it's basically impossible to log in and upload a video without seeing your older numbers. And that can be disheartening, especially if, you think you have done a really good job and have a fantastic argument, fantastic video, and no one watches it. And that can be hurtful. Like, that can be painful in a way, because even though we're not doing it for specific numbers, I assume most of us want some sort of recognition. In a way. I know I certainly do. It's hard to actually justify that for myself, but I certainly feel that I want to get some sort of recognition. It's like I talk about, I don't know, Discworld, for example. Like I love Discworld. I've read like all of those books like multiple times, and when I do like a Discworld video, it really hurts me that no one's watching them, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? I mean, the answer is that I probably didn't tag them well, and for a long time I didn't use thumbnails, and, maybe Discord isn't as huge as I think it should be, and stuff like that. But in a way, it does hurt sometimes. And I feel with something like a bit like higher production value, whatever kind of thing I want to do with that, like more video essay almost kind of video. If that video doesn't get like a lot of views, and I don't think it will, I'm afraid that it will just, hurt in a way. So I'm like sort of protecting myself from that by just not making the video. Or when I'm going to make it, to just like rush it so I can always justify, it's a self-sabotage thing basically. I do that so when it doesn't get like thousands of views, which it won't, I can always justify that to myself by saying, yeah, but you did a shit job there. The fact is that I know all those things rationally, but that doesn't make it easier to actually, change it and deal with it in a way. So yeah, there's that. And the number thing is just like, I don't know. I try to usually don't think about it, and then there's sometimes situations where I'm like, yeah, sometimes it bothers me. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. I do want 1,000 subscribers. Will that change anything? I don't think so, but for whatever reason, because that focus on numbers that we have in like social media in general, it feels like having like a 4-digit subscriber count is a huge step, even though, it technically isn't. I mean, yeah, you get monetized, but, it don't make much difference, because maybe a few cents here or there, and that's about it. But yeah, see my problem there is like I try to not think about it, but from time to time it kind of gets driven home, and then I feel bad for myself for a moment, and then I ignore it again, and then I keep on going. But those moments happen. Just, same thing with like where Booktube is going in there. I plan to do like a video in the future on certain aspects of Booktube that I see as, if not problematic, then at least kind of interesting and worth talking about, because I do believe it is important that we think about and talk about what we are actually doing on this platform. Like, you look at like how Booktube has changed over the last couple of years. For example, collaborations have become huge, like weekly or monthly or whatever conversations. You have like Dear Dr. Fantasy that Philip Chase is doing, and it's fantastic. And there's Talking with Nuts that Jimmy Nuts is doing. And, Steve Talks Books has his Friday night conversations. And Mike from Mike's Book Reviews has his, what's it called? Talking About Nothing series. And there's more of those out there. And there's a reason for why those are happening, and that is, I believe, they are way more accessible. It's much easier to listen to two people talking and just listen in than it is to just listen to one person ranting at the camera. The way those individual videos are made, unless you're like very, very talented in your performance, it always feels a bit like didactic. someone is telling you something, and there's a level of authority in there that I think can be, treacherous in a way. But having like 2 or 3 people talk about a subject, while on the one is more accessible. You're just listening in on an interesting conversation. They're not specifically targeting you. They're talking with each other, and that can be much more comfortable to watch or listen to, which is, I guess, why podcasts are so popular in general. And on the other hand, of course, if you have like a conversation with someone else, ideas collide and spark off each other, and you can actually create new insights by actually talking to someone and not just, screaming into the void. So there is, I guess, more value, or can be a lot of value to a conversation that is unique to conversations that you will not get in a well-researched, well-scripted video performed by one person. And that's great. Well, obviously, the other part of that is, what does that mean? Does that, in a way, create a sort of in-group of people that are constantly collabing with each other, and makes it very difficult for like the next generation to break into that, because you need to start those conversations. What does that then do for Booktube in the future? And I think there's a conversation to be had about that. I just need to make sure that I voice it in a way that does not come across as me being, I don't know, jealous that I don't get invited on collaborations, which, yeah, might be a part of it, but I don't want like that to be like the thing to be taken away from the video. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do these kind of things, because it seems that right now my videos are heading in a more like political and whatnot reflective direction, which is something that I personally very much appreciate. I do enjoy that. I want to talk about books, but I want to talk about books on a level that goes beyond just saying, yeah, this plot line is great, or this character was fantastic, or whatever. We do that a lot, but I think there's more to be had. Which then is, of course, like the next issue, right? Where when I make those videos like the Orientalism thing, or politics and fantasy, and I've got like other ideas that I want to pursue in that regard, where I'm like, I feel there's a conversation to be had within the fantasy, like the smaller fantasy booktube community, that we kind of haven't had. Like when you look at larger media dialogue, we've gone far there. Like we have like had like post-colonialism, feminism, all these things have had a huge impact on how we look at media, how we debate, how we discuss and dissect media. But it has rarely reached into fantasy, specifically into the fantasy discourse. Like you can go and read like the Malazan Book of the Fallen. There's a lot of post-colonial themes in there, and that's fantastic. But unless someone goes and actually points those out, we're missing out. And I do understand from like, on the one hand, it is sort of the refuge of people that don't want to deal with politics in a way. And having pointed out that your favorite book does have all these like important political like theories and views in it, can feel like a bit of a betrayal when you're like, yeah, but I thought it was all about like hobbits and orcs and shit. But it's also about class and race and gender and all this other stuff. I do feel that. On the other hand, I do feel that conversation has to come from out of our own like fantasy booktube corner, because the few instances where someone from like a larger media discourse started talking about fantasy books, very often you can tell that those people haven't, read like 50 fantasy books or whatever, or hundreds of fantasy books, and just read one and found something and are not aware of the context. And that makes it so very, very easy to dismiss their criticism of a specific fantasy work, because you can dismiss it because they get like facts wrong. Yeah, how can I believe them in anything else if their facts are already wrong? And then we debate like how they got the skin color of orcs wrong and shit like that, and we'll never actually go down to that real actual issue that is there. So I think it has to come from inside the fantasy booktube corner. But yeah, am I the right person for doing that? I don't know. Do I really want to do that? I don't know. You know, it's all a bit weird. I'm just waffling and I don't know what I'm actually going to say and do here. And yeah, as I said, like, life's been weird and it's a heat wave that doesn't help with thinking either. So I don't know. It's, as I said, it's been a bit of a weird week, and I really hope I can actually get my financial shit together, because it's weighing on me in like bad ways, in really bad ways. But this should not just be me complaining. So instead, let's look at what you've done last week. Which books have you read? Did you enjoy them? Did you hate them? Let me know in the comments. What are you reading right now? What are you planning to read? What are your plans for the next week? Are you going to do something cool? Let me know in the comments, and I hope you're having a great week, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.